A lot of times we think we're ready to make contact with our spiritual guides and our ancestors. We wake up spiritually. We're so gusto and gung ho to get into the thick of it. And, you know, you're like that until you actually get thrown into the thick of it, until you actually have solid communication with many different beings. As somebody who has communication myself, I am a medium, and I've opened up my clear abilities to a sense where or to a point where I can communicate with a bunch of different beings, ET, spirits, ancestors, whatever you name it. You know what I'm saying? I can communicate. And it's a burden to a degree. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a level of respect and reverence that people don't really have for these things. They think that everybody should just have it, and it's like it's a responsibility. That's the word I was looking for. I feel like burden has a little bit more of a negative connotation. It's a responsibility, right? When you actually make contact with, let's say, for example, your ancestors usually require things from you, Spirit guides is a little different. Like if you're dealing with a certain angel, or you're dealing with maybe a ET being, like a lot of times they don't really need anything from you specifically, but they will have you do things though, or they will try and get you to act in certain ways that overall they're benefiting you. They're in line with your growth as a spiritual being. But it's kind of like a mutual reciprocity. It's a mutual benefit, symbiosis. That's what I'm looking for. And a lot of people don't talk about that. They think that the divine is just here for you, and they're here to help you on your journey. And it's like, that's true, but you have to show up. You have to give things. You have to give a lot of yourself. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people on earth who wake up their spiritual gifts, they're called to be, seers and healers and mediums and all of that. And they, host their services like I do. And, you could book a session with me or book a session with anybody, but that's part of their destiny and a part of their journey. It's a part of their service. They show up with those abilities, and it's a responsibility that they have. Usually when I see people that want these abilities, but maybe they're struggling to get them, or they're struggling to wake them up because they already have them. They don't have the responsibility part down. I think once you realize what you're even having the abilities for, once you realize how the divine is trying to use you, that is when they start to come in. For example, or let me say this really quick. I want to emphasize the fact that whatever spiritual abilities that you want, you're probably not going to get those outright. Those are usually the ones that you have to work for. The ones you get are usually the ones that you need. And that may sound discouraging to some people, but it's the truth. And this isn't a video about spiritual abilities exclusively, but spiritual abilities kind of go hand in hand with spirit guide communication, because that's the way that we communicate with them. Like I said, there's a certain amount of work that you have to put in to hone these abilities. You have to put in time and effort, days. A lot of people want these abilities and they don't even meditate every day. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like bare minimum for developing spiritual gifts is meditation and energy work. That's the foundation. Once you can have a solid foundation in those things, then everything else will wake up. Not to say that you actually need to. I find that if you live your life normally without caring about spiritual abilities, but you acknowledge that they exist, slowly they will open up to you even without you meditating, because it's just a part of you. You know what I'm saying? But trying to reach mastery, you need to be doing the things that are going to get you to where you want to be. And that includes meditation, energy work. It may look like studying, reading books about these things, because there have been infinite people who have done these things before you, right? And that goes along with spirit guide communication as well. People have been communicating with spirits for thousands and thousands of years. Different shaman and priest-like entities or individuals, all of this stuff is documented. So I encourage you to go learn from those people, Learn from the ancients, learn from Egypt and Kemet. They have a very, documented history of spirit communications. Even like Native Americans, different indigenous cultures, even like Greece and Rome, they communicate with spirits in their own ways. Medieval cultures like Christianity, they communicated with spirits a lot too. All of these from different lenses. Look at Buddhists, and look at Taoists, look at the Hindus, like look at all cultures when it comes to spirit guide communication and spirit mediumship in general. You know what I'm saying? Every culture has their own practices that I advise that you learn from. But now that I got the kind of understanding that these are things that we need to nurture, things that are our responsibility. It's almost like having a pet, you know what I'm saying? As funny as that may sound. It's like everybody wants a pet, and so they have to pick up the shit, you know what I'm saying? It's like that's kind of how it is with spiritual abilities. Everybody wants clairvoyance until random images start popping up in their mind and they're getting overloaded. Everybody wants clear audience and wants to be a telepath until you have random ass beings calling you out of your name every day. Or everybody wants any gift you could think of. Maybe I'll do a gift video, like pro and con to each gift. I'm not gonna lie, but each way that we communicate with source and with spirits comes with a back door, and you can get backdoored at any moment. You have to be able to keep a resilient mind, keep a strong core, so that you're not caught off guard, or so that you're not thrown into a state of unconsciousness, because that's what's going to close off your spiritual gifts. The more conscious you are, the more effortless your spiritual gifts are going to flow in. Next, I want to talk about my experience with spirit. Now I want to talk about my experience with spirit guide communication. I've been on my spiritual journey since I was 15. I'm 22 now, so it's been 7 years. I have 7 years of experience, trials and errors, fails, success. I like I have a solid spiritual framework and foundation to be able to teach other people, right? A foundation that I'm currently building upon, and building systems and courses that will help people. Be on the lookout for those. I want to help people tap in with these gifts for themselves, because it is a blessing at the end of the day, and it's very freeing. But you have to get the foundations down. That is something that I learned early on, so I luckily have not had some of the crazier experiences other people have had, but have had crazy experiences. So I want to kind of go through my history right now and tell you like different ways that I've succeeded and different ways that I failed when communicating with spirits, or even just like different ways I was caught off guard, because a lot of times it wasn't necessarily an outright loss. It was just something that randomly happened, and I was just like, whoa, like that shit really just happened. That happens a lot, especially early on, right? So going into my spiritual journey, I didn't really want any spirit guide communication gifts outright. I kind of wanted things that implied I would get those abilities, but it was more so like, for me, it was more so like energy manipulation, pyrokinesis, telekinesis, astral projection. Those are the abilities that I wanted, right? I wanted those for selfish reasons. I never really wanted to help anybody with those abilities. And that's why they were always kind of slower to manifest for me. I didn't start astral projecting until like 3 or 4 years into my journey. And even then it was like sparingly, because I was still mastering my energetic bodies. When it comes to my other gifts though, like my clairvoyance, my clairsentience, my clairaudience, my clairs, for the most part, woke up super easy. And a lot of people are different. Some people are easy at waking up their clairs and tapping in with their different energy bodies, and some people are better at astral projection and telekinesis, things like that. You see people on the internet who do the telekinesis. Some of these people be faking, but some of these people be real. You know what I'm saying? So you see these people and you want to be like them. You want to do what they do. But it's important on this journey to pay attention to what you have and what you need to do and what spirit wants for you, because trying to direct something off course or on your own imagined path, that can throw your life out of alignment, and it can corrupt your gifts as well. I've seen it happen on people. They want to awaken a certain gift, and they'll try super hard to awaken that gift, and they'll do things to awaken that gift that maybe are outside of what their spirit is comfortable with. You don't want to get into a state of trying to be something that you're not, or LARPing. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be like that. You want to be you. And the best way to be you on this journey is to take it slow and let things come to you. Not to say that the things that you want or the gifts that you want, the abilities that you want aren't for you, because a lot of times they are, and that's why we want them. But usually there's a certain lesson involved, um no shortcuts. You have to take the long way type of lessons, and it can suck if you stay too attached to the idea of even having the ability or communicating with a certain God. But it's important to stay on that journey. That's where the true benefits and the true fruits of your labor are gonna be doing the work. But back to the spirit guys, right? Like I said, it was easy for me to wake up clear audience, and that was one of the earliest ways I started communicating with my spirit guides. Another way I've been communicating with my spirit guides since the jump was pretty much, um, I'm not gonna disclose it too much. It's kind of personal, but it has to do with my physical body and different electrical impulses that go throughout my body. Right, a certain like impulse throughout my body means something, and another one means something else. I have a pretty complex, well, it's not complex, but it's like a layered system for communication with my spirit guides, and I'm very blessed to have that. I have direct communication with spirit, and a lot of people wish they had that, but early on I didn't really want that, to be honest. um I wanted to do cool shit. I didn't want to be tapped uh in the way that I am, but I'm glad that I am, because it's led me where I need to be. Like, it has not led me astray. I mean, there's been times where it did, but that was because I was either tapped into something that I shouldn't have been, or it was because spirit needed me to go in a certain direction to, experience a certain trauma or experience a certain mishap so that I can learn from it. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes spirit does lead me to the woods in the dark. But overall, they protect me, right? The way that my clairaudience started to wake up initially, even my clairvoyance, my clairsentience, all of these kind of happened at the same time. But my clairaudience was definitely the strongest. The way this woke up for me was I would experiment with certain, plant medicines. I would experiment with shrooms. I would experiment with marijuana, and nothing would happen. Exactly. When I was on shrooms, maybe I would see a few things, have a few visions, but nothing crazy. I was actually kind of surprised that nothing was happening. Like, I would not receive the certain spiritual experiences off these substances that other people would. And that kind of called me to like put the substances down, because they market substances as a cheat code or as some sort of hack that you can use to tap in instantly. And, that's not where my energy lies. It can be like that for some people, but my guys really wanted me to tap in organically. So once I stopped doing those things, my gifts started coming in way crazier, way heavier. And, it got to the point where I would just be hearing voices in my head naturally, like, hey, like, do this or don't do that. And sometimes the voices would get aggressive. Sometimes I would channel a being that I didn't want around me. But I had to learn, like, in this past few years, I've learned a lot of mental fortitude. This is what you have to do as a telepath. You have to really protect your mind, because you're gonna hear things that you don't want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes it's an entity, sometimes it's a person. Not necessarily, it could be their thoughts, but usually you're just reading their energy and it's channeling into words in your mind. You know what I'm saying? Don't confuse this with your thoughts. It's not the same thing. Your thoughts or your emotional impulses are not necessarily an entity or something that somebody else is saying in their mind. Please don't confuse the two. That is psychosis. You'll know when an entity is talking to you because you won't just hear it in your head. You'll feel a pulse. Well, it's gonna feel different for everybody, more or less. But for me, I feel the energy moving through all of my chakras, all of my physical body. Like, when I hear something, it doesn't just stay in my mind. It travels all throughout my body, and I feel like a kind of pulse. It feels like I'm being plugged in when they talk and when they speak, and then when they finish, I'm plugged out and I feel normal. Right? That's for me. It's gonna feel slightly different for everybody, but generally you're gonna feel that energy passing through you, because you're channeling a frequency. You're channeling something that is beyond your own creation. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you're just thinking, that's just your brain. You know what I'm saying? That's just your consciousness exercising itself, and exercising itself. But when you're communicating with an entity, you're gonna feel the presence of that entity. not just some paranoid thoughts. But I had to make that clear. Please don't confuse the two. Back to the point, I really had to learn a lot of mental fortitude because beings will talk to me sideways as fuck. Like, I'm talking like, I'm not even gonna go over all the things that beings have said to me. Some beings will talk to you sideways, and you have to learn that energetic sovereignty. Like, learn how to command your space, learn how to close off your aura so that these beings cannot come around you, right? Eventually, I started consciously communicating with my spirit guides, like talking like, oh, okay, who are you? Like, what do you do? What is my position to you? And sometimes, a lot of times, actually, they don't even answer in the way that you want to, or the way that you want them to. Some of these beings, if they told you everything, like, it would kind of interfere with your free will, or it would kind of interfere with your plan. Not your plan. It would kind of interfere with your path. That's the word. So they can't tell you everything, but a lot of beings, like especially ancestors, they'll tell you who they are. Or if they don't tell you directly through words, because some of these beings are not like energetically strong enough to communicate with you. Sometimes they'll kind of communicate with you through certain events in your life. And it won't necessarily just be them. It'll be like the divine orchestrating certain things to tap you in with a certain guide. Like, maybe you needed to tap in with your mom's side of the family, and all of a sudden your mother brings out all of her old pictures of her childhood and all of her ancestors and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. Or maybe somebody comes over for dinner and they come with their old picture book of the family from before you were born. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that happens when you're getting tapped in with a certain ancestor or a certain side of your family. That's usually how it manifests. And it's important to pay attention to those things, but at the higher levels, it gets more direct, right? You can actually communicate with these beings once you realize that they're in your field or that they're trying to communicate with you. You can, ask them certain questions. If they're at the earlier stages, I would write down something on a piece of paper, then let it sit on my altar. And slowly throughout the week, like those questions will be answered, or maybe slowly throughout the month, the questions will be answered just randomly. If you start to awaken your abilities to the point where you can hear and communicate with your guides, it'll usually just be instant. You ask something, they give you an answer, or they tell you that they can't answer, and that's that. Now, why is spirit guide communication important at all, right? Why am I making this video? It's important so that you can stay aligned on your path. When it comes to the way that we want to maneuver in life, 99% of people on this planet are not moving the way that they want to move. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe like 90%. Most people do not live the life they desire, nor are they on the path that they desire. Some people are kind of contempt. Some people are just outright not living what they desire. Your guides can help you avert all of that shit. Your guides can deadass put you on a path that is extremely aligned with your soul and your spirit, and keep you in a state of pleasure, keep you in a state of being challenged, not just pleasure, but keep you on a state of growth, right? That's the whole point of spirit guide communication. Some of these beings, they range from different levels. Like I said, sometimes it's an ancestor that will be 4D, or sometimes 5D. Even it could be 6D too. Sometimes you're dealing with an ET. This would be 5D to 6D. It could be 4D too. All of these beings could be from anywhere in reality, but I do want to emphasize the fact that you could be communicating at the higher levels, like clear audience and being able to telepathically and clear cognizantly communicate with spirits. You can start to deal with the higher entities. Like I'm talking like 6D and above, like 7D, 8D, 9D, communicating with godlike beings, communicating with beings who are super pivotal within reality, right? It gives you that direct channel to God pretty much. And you can gain influence over your reality in a special way, not just a way where somebody who is not awake in their ability, somebody who is not in tune with reality, they will not be able to influence reality in the way that you can as somebody who can just talk to the divine and hear them back. You know what I'm saying? This is a life of clarity. This is not a life of misconceptions. You will know what path you're on and why, and any other confusion is purely self-created. You know what I'm saying? Like, the divine is very clear with me specifically, and other people who have these gifts, you'll notice that they live in a state of perpetual clarity. I never am in a state where I don't know where I'm going unless I'm creating confusion for myself. Another reason why spirit guide communication is so important is because some of your spirit guides are actually you, right? So when it comes to our souls and our spirit manifests as many different beings in the vessel of a soul, right? So you could have 20 souls that belong to the same spirit. It's all one being that splits into many different beings. Sometimes you're incarnating on earth as a physical soul, and you'll also have a adjacent spirit or an adjacent soul who belongs to your greater spirit. You are soul family, but they're not necessarily you. They're not your ego. They're just you in a spiritual sense. So, they'll help you on your journey. Sometimes you'll help them on their journey. A lot of times these beings exist outside of space and time, or they're able to traverse space and time, so they'll be able to hop in and out of this physical 3D reality or outside of our realm of existence. So, they're able to see our timelines in a different way. When I see my timeline, I can see it in my mind through pictures and events and a feeling, right? A clear cognizance that certain things are aligned and certain things are not, right? But they can actually see the timelines in their entirety. So they can tell you, like, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that, make this move, go there at this specific time, don't go there anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can give you specific things to do that'll catapult you into a whole new timeline. That's something that I've noticed with my spirit guide communication as well. Like, my timeline maintenance has become so meticulous. Like, I've hopped out of some of the worst timelines. Dead ass. I'm convinced that some of the old timelines I was on, the world was finna end. Like, it's just like I'm on a way cleaner path now. Everything is accounted for. I'm taken care of. Like, I don't have to trip about shit. And I was not always in that spot. And a lot of it is not my own doing. A lot of it is just things that happened because I was in a certain place energetically. I learned from certain things, and I was able to move on to a state where I can flow effortlessly with God's plan or what my spirit guides have created for me. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing too. Not only can some of your spirit guides actually see the timelines, some of your spirit guides actually created the timeline. So whatever timeline that you envisioned in your mind, you think you want this because of your own physical desires or your ego desires, but a lot of times your spirit guides created the reality that you are envisioning that you see. They handcrafted it. It's different types of beings. You have architect beings. These beings are like a physical representation of these beings will be like a physicist or an engineer, you know what I'm saying? But like on a cosmic level, they create these things. They're super tapped in with reality, tapped in with the laws of the different spiritual planes, and they can create realities, whole realities and timelines. And some of these beings, they are intuitively tapped in with these timelines. So maybe they didn't create the timeline from the ground up, but they're in tune with the greater narrative of reality and why all these timelines are intersecting, because timelines interact with each other and they create a greater cosmic story, right? A being who is tapped in with that greater cosmic story can see you and be like, oh, this is where that person fits in the greater cosmic story. Let me tell them to do this, or let me help them in this way so they can get in line with the greater cosmic story. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much the gist of spirit guides. It's some things that I left out, maybe like a few personal or niche experiences that I will mention in another video, but this is just the outline. Like, this is how you communicate with spirit guides, my personal experience with spirit guides, and why spirit guides even matter in the first place. Like, it's a super important thing on your spiritual journey for you to tap in with your spirit guides, because they are your resources. You know what I'm saying? I do want to go, I'll bring it right back to the beginning and say that your ability to even communicate with a spirit guide is a privilege. I've been needing to tap into that mentality a lot lately, because sometimes you take it for granted, especially somebody who has the abilities woken up. It shit just becomes natural, it becomes regular to me. So sometimes I may get out of line, or I may get to a state where, I'm not being grateful, or I'm not listening to my spirit guides. And that can, halt you. It can push you back. It can stagnate you. So you don't want to get there. There is a certain level of reverence that needs to be held for this practice of communication with the divine. Like I said, it's a responsibility. When you wake up and you get the knowledge, you get the information, you get the abilities to communicate, it's up to you to use that to not only your benefit, but the people around you. You know what I'm saying? To align other people with the cosmic story. Like I said, because once you get these abilities, you become a spirit guide as well. Once you get tapped in with spirit, you become spirit. So you'll naturally become the uplifter of other people, and that's super important, super powerful on this journey, right? But that's all for this video. If you made it this far, I want to thank you. Much love. My name is Professor X. I do all type of My name is Professor X. I make videos on spirituality, consciousness, holistic health, even like certain medical topics. You know, I work in the medical field. I'm also a medium, like I've said all throughout this video. I have most of my spiritual abilities or my clairs woken up, and like I'm truly able to communicate with the divine. So if you ever need, a medium, or you need spiritual coaching, hit my social medias. You could probably message me on YouTube too, or leave a comment. I'll get up with you. Or the direct way is just to go to my social media, hit my link, and book. I do astrology as well. I do numerology, but the main reason why I'm making this video is to tell you that you don't need any of that. You don't really need my services. I want you to develop these things for yourself, right? Tapping in with me can help you on your journey to developing these things for yourself, but I would not rely on a certain medium or a certain guide to, be the bridge for you. We're in an age where we can start to be the bridge for ourselves. We are energetically and spiritually sovereign, and that's what I'm on here preaching to you and to the world, right? We need to access the higher parts of our spirit, and a part of doing that is tapping in with the divine and our spirit guides. So like I said, thank you for making it this far in the video. Please leave a like and a comment if you have anything to add to the conversation. If you truly love this video, I advise that you watch other videos and maybe give a boy a follow. We've gained a lot of followers in the last few months. And honestly, I never saw myself being this big on YouTube. I only have like 500 subscribers, but that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? I have like a few thousand followers on social media, like 10,000 overall across all platforms. But YouTube is different. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's harder to grow a following on YouTube. So this 500 followers means a lot. So I really thank y'all. I'm very grateful. Please ring the bell so that you can get notifications whenever I post. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. Peace out.